Authenticity. Authenticity. I think this is one of the most underrated qualities that an individual can possess. I think authenticity is probably the most attractive thing about a person, for me anyway. Um, you know, I used to think, when I look at people that I've always been gravitated towards, whether it's in real life or, um, people that write books or people that, um, public figures or people on YouTube or, any sort of thinkers or authors or anything like that. I've always been, it's interesting. It's like there are some people, there's a lot of people that I gravitate towards the most. And yet, if I think about them from a logical standpoint, like, are they the most intellectual? Like, are they the smartest? Are they the funniest? Are they, the most level? Like, are they the most emotionally balanced people? Are they the most, successful people? Are they the most good looking people? Are they the most thoughtful people? Are they the most considerate people? Right? Almost all the time it's no, right? It's no on all those things. In fact, it can be a strong no for some of these things, right? Strongly. Strong. And yet I love listening to them. I love their energy. I love being around them. I'm just gravitated towards these individuals. And that is because they are authentic. I have a brother, and my brother went to Harvard, and I didn't even finish college. And he went to Harvard, and he studied history. He majored in history, and he's very intellectual, right? Reads all the time. He's just reading constantly. He was like that when he was a kid, and just reads and reads and reads. And he loves to have debates. He loves to have discussions and debates and stuff. And I've had my fair share with him, for sure. Me and him have gone into that arena definitely a few times. And I personally hold the belief that it's always a pretty good battle too. But in what I've always viewed about my brother is that he is the type to really gravitate towards logic. What's the most studied thing? What's right? What's right? It's all about what's right, what's correct. What's right, what's correct. You don't want to say anything that'll make you look like a fool, right? You don't want to say anything that'll be wrong or not nuanced, right? You want to bring a lot of nuance to everything that you say, just a lot of nuance. You want to qualify everything too. Qualify everything, nuance. It's almost like, when you have so much qualification, so much nuance, it's almost like, what are you even saying then? Do you have a position? Do you believe in do you believe in anything, or are you just saying that, yeah, there's multiple ways of looking at things, and it's like a paralysis by analysis type thing where you're actually afraid of being wrong in any sense more than you want to stand on some sort of opinion or belief. And that's always kind of been my analysis of my brother, and that's fine. But we get along. We get along. We're good. We're good with each other. But um, it's interesting because there are a lot of people that I, either subscribe to on, on social medias, or people that I like in my life, or, friends, or, just certain things, certain people. And I know for a fact that my brother would be like, "What?" I can hear him just being like, "What? Why do you like this? Why do you like this person? Like they don't even say anything. They don't even say any like they're wrong about this, they're wrong about that. They're clearly just like it's very he'll say it's reductive, it's banal, it's not even thought out. Like it's just very crude and like which, it might be true. So what? I like them because they're authentic. I like them because I can tell that they're being honest. And that in this world, man, is so difficult to come across nowadays. It's so difficult to come across nowadays. People that are just honest, people that are authentically themselves, right? Authentically themselves. And the great thing about authentic people is that they know it's like they're inherently flawed because they're authentic. They can inherently be they've thrown themselves into a arena or into a place where people can hurl sticks and stones and words and just berate them, just point out this flaw and that flaw, a flaw in their view and what they said and what's wrong with them and all these things. It's like they are a target. They are, just innately, because they're authentic, they are a target, right? Authentic people are not perfect people, right? You're not perfect. Authentic people are not perfect. And a lot of the times they are just imbalanced in a lot of ways, right? They just have some sort of, they have a flair to them. They have a flair to them, right? They're not always going to be right. In fact, you know, it's very often that they're not right in like the logical sense, right? Oh, they're not, that doesn't match up with the data, right? Oh, that doesn't match up with the data and the studies. Okay, well, who makes the data and the studies now? Like there's a study that contradicts a study. Any study that you give me, there's a study that contradicts it. So like at this point, when information is so abundant, it's like, where do you go for the right information? It's almost like you got to go back to yourself. You just got to decide for yourself. We all kind of decide which is the data that we want to use, which is the studies that we want to use. You know what I mean? And data and information and studies have almost been just sort of bastardized. They've just been um, just overused so much as to almost be worthless now. Like like a study and data that used to go a long way back in like early 2000s, late 1990, or even before that, right? You had the newspaper come out and this sort of research institution come out with the data, and everybody's like, oh well, the data, this is the truth. It's like, well, now there's there's data all over the place on every sort of platform in all sorts of areas. Everybody's got different views. Everybody has different studies, and a lot of these institutes and research institutes, they're funded, right? They have certain financial incentives, right? They're funded by certain political parties, or funded by certain corporations or something like that. So it's very often difficult to find, studies and data that are not sort of biased in some way. But with all that being said, there's a huge fear, I think, for a lot of people, especially if they put themselves sort of um, in front of a lot of people, like in discussion, either in person or maybe it's online. Um, maybe if people are trying to make their way in, growing a business or, growing a YouTube channel or growing whatever, right? You are oftentimes, people oftentimes they struggle with being incorrect about something, with not being right about something. And this is something that I struggle with myself. I was always like, I want to be right. But then at a certain point, it's like, you can't, like, you'll never say anything true, right? Because everything's constantly evolving, everything's so complex. The most you can do is put up like a signpost that points the direction to truth. You know what I mean? Like, you put up a signpost that says, yeah, this is closer to truth. Truth is that way. And I think this is a good signpost that points us closer to truth. But nobody just like puts up the destination and says, yep, I got the ultimate truth right here. This is what's right. This is what's correct right here. This is perfect, flawless. I think that's a lot of the world nowadays is you either have people that are so paralyzed by analysis, they're so frightened, terrified of not being right that they never actually do anything, right? You never actually go anywhere because you don't want to be proven a fool. Don't want to be looking like you don't want to look like a fool, basically. You want to look good. You want to look good, you know? You want to seem like you know what you're doing. You want to seem like you have some sort of idea of what's going on, right? And that is a paralysis of analysis type thing. But then you have the other opposite end of the spectrum where you have people that are just like, they've called off the search too early. And it's like, yep, this is right. This is correct. This is, whatever. And, no need to go any further. This is it. And it's like, well, oftentimes I have always have a hard time believing those people and believing that that's true. But this is where authenticity comes into play, is like, a lot of the times, authenticity is just so contagious because, and it's so infectious that you gravitate towards it because, a person is, when they're being authentic, they are also being very vulnerable, right? Authenticity is inherently vulnerable, because authenticity is not a perfection. It's inherently imperfect. And it's not always nuanced, and it's not always politically correct. It's not always thoughtful or insightful. It is simply what the human being that's being authentic, it's simply the truth for them, right? They are speaking their truth. They are speaking from a real place within inside of themselves, and that takes vulnerability, right? If you speak from a real place within yourself and you are being truthful about the words that you say and about what you believe about them, right? That's going to carry a certain energy. Like, people are going to be able to pick up on, like, that's the thing about authenticity is like, I've, you know, it's like there have been people in my life that I've been gravitated towards and I never really, knew why. And now I can kind of understand that they all had an element. They were either very authentic or they were, more authentic than others, like relative, you know what I mean? Like, they had some authenticity about them. There was something, unapologetic about them. There was something that they were just, they just were who they were. And they were okay with, being labeled this and being labeled that and not being correct all the time and not being right. And they weren't like paralyzed by analysis. They didn't have a lot of fear. Usually authentic people don't really have a lot of fear behind them unless you're being authentically fearful, I guess. But they don't really strike, they never really strike me as being full of a lot of fear. But authenticity is just, I have some people that I subscribe to on YouTube, and like sometimes I'll be watching them and I'll just start laughing because it's like they're so real, and yet at the same time I know that what they're saying is not always the most it's not always the most thought out, It's not always the most analytical. It's not always the most nuanced, right? They're not speaking from a place, an intellectual place. They're speaking from the heart, right? They're just speaking from a deeper place. They're not speaking from the mind. They're speaking from the heart. And I love that. It's I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear people just regurgitating, things that they've learned and books that they've read from authors that, learned all of what they wrote from other authors that they wrote, that they read, and did the same thing over and over, and ad infinitum. I don't want regurgitative people. I don't want like people that are like paralyzed, even if they are, more matching up with like the current, you know, zeitgeist of the time and what people believe, and all the studies kind of back up what they're saying. Like, that's boring. Like, that's boring. That's boring. I like people that have heart, that have substance, that are just like, they're just gonna say what they're gonna say. You know what I mean? Because there is truth in that. I think that that's where the real truth is. Like, if people just speak authentically from like who they are, that's where the real truth is. That's where the real good stuff is. Um, you know, I just don't see how it could be any other way. Um, I think everybody, inherently is drawn to authenticity, even though you might cringe at times, or you might, your mind, your sort of mind, intellectual brain starts to, throw up alarm bells like, oh, did they really just say that? But it's like something deeper within you. If you're more in touch with your depth, with your intuition, I think you'll notice that you actually like it. You like what they're saying. Um, you want them to keep saying it. You want them to keep being who they are. And, you know, I just think that this is key for people, for all people, not just men, but women too. We need to start being more authentic, just not necessarily, you don't need to worry about having some ultimate truth or being correct all the time. Like, that was something that I said before earlier. Like, that was something that I struggled with. I wanted to be correct. I still struggle with that. I want to be correct. I want to be right about certain things, but it's like, you know, you're never gonna get there. Like, that's what I realized, is like, I'll never get there. Like, I'll never get there. It'll never come. That moment will never come. And the worst thing that could happen is I finally get all the, what you don't want to happen is you don't want to be so focused on like being correct and right and having like the perfect, sort of worldview or whatever, or argument or whatever. And then, you built your whole life on that, and then something comes out down the road, like some study or whatever, that just absolutely obliterates your entire life's work. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, you're never going to be right. You're never going to be absolutely right. You will be close, All of us are closer or further, from the truth. And I think, you put up signposts, the ones that are closer, they can put up a good signpost that says, yeah, this way, this is closer. And I think that's the best human beings can do. You can't hold up a destination sign. And I think you get there. I think these signposts are from being authentic. Authenticity is something. I think authenticity is like it is you know the mother that gives birth to truth. You know what I mean? it's like a requisite. It's like for truth to be had, you need to be authentic first. And I just don't think you get there from lying to yourself and trying to be somebody you're not, and trying to, be what the world thinks you should be, and be, don't upset these people and don't upset these people, and just try to be, like, you're just gonna disappear. You're just gonna disappear into the crowd, with everybody else. So yeah, authenticity is everything. Let's be more authentic. All right, that's it. That's the video.